I just want to remind everybody, shareholder, happy customer. I've said many good things about Tesla over the years, defended the Foundation Series pricing, defended the lower Cybertruck range. I'm in love with the new Model 3 performance, and I just reviewed those seats if you didn't catch that video. Seriously, this is not coming from a place of hate or pessimism or cynicism. If there's anything you take away from this video today, I hope it's the phrase concerned. That's what I think most of the Tesla community and a lot of shareholders are feeling with Elon's latest decision to lay off not just a bunch of executives, but also the entire Tesla charging team. Now, I understand layoffs are a necessary evil. They're sad, and it's hard when people have to leave a company and find a new place to work, and there's been a lot of people affected by that, not just in the EV industry, but just across the world. But I do think there's a stark difference here between laying off several hundred people in an entire crucial division of Tesla's brand, and this is not just a simple trimming of the fat, okay? I understand when there's one thing about expenses being too high, and every couple of years Tesla wants to trim back, not be too bloated, and not keep funding things or keep positioned in rounds that aren't absolutely required. But in my opinion, and I think a lot of people share this sentiment with me, it is absolutely insane to think that the Tesla charging team was not an essential part of Tesla's business. I do not agree with many of the people out there claiming that Tesla is basically done. They don't need to deploy superchargers anymore because other companies can do the work. Other companies have adopted NACS. First of all, Kyle Connor from Out of Spec has already detailed his sources between utility companies and high-up executives at other automakers have already lost all of their communication and contact with the Tesla company because everybody on the charging team has been let go and none of their emails are even active anymore. My worst fear about this whole dismantling of the Tesla charging team has actually come true. If these reports are to be believed, which I do believe them, there are many automakers out there that were mid-transition, behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to transition to the NACS port on their vehicle, who have now lost their communication and contacts at Tesla. And many of them might actually now have to fall back onto using CCS1, which was such a horribly designed port, and I can't express how much gratitude and joy and celebration we had every time one of these major companies announced a transition to NACS, because it was another step closer to getting electric vehicles to be simple and intuitive and simply just work the same way a gas vehicle works. And I think this dismantling of the charging team, even if in the short term not much changes, the maintenance guys are still there and the upkeep of existing superchargers will continue, that's good. But simply from the headlines that are created by this and the people that are going to come up to us now saying, I don't know if I want to buy a Tesla because I heard they fired off their whole charging team and they're not going to grow the supercharger network as quickly, when Tesla's own website and the maps in the car still have a bunch of locations that don't technically have supercharger access, and Teslas can straight up just not go there. Especially when we were mid-transition in opening up the supercharger network to be available for non-Teslas so that any EV could actually pull in and charge there. And with Tesla planning on growing, maybe not so much this year, but with the years to come, I have myself experienced the wait times and the lines at existing superchargers, particularly in major cities, and a lot of people can't charge from home in that case. So relying more on reliable and affordable DC fast charging was going to be the solution. I mean, Elon in the past has even publicly acknowledged that wherever they build superchargers, they tend to see higher take rates for orders. Like, more people would buy their car if they knew a supercharger was nearby. I think that especially is going to be the case as we're running out of EV demand more lately. Part of it is due to interest rates, sure, but also part of it is not everybody has the hardware to charge from home. There's a lot of people living in apartments who were depending on the rollout in growth, not slowing growth, but accelerated growth of superchargers, which again have the best uptime, the most reliability, and Tesla was an industry leader in this regard in the charging business for making sure with these chargers were not just fast and reliable, but also affordable. We've seen very quite noticeably from other charging companies that it is incredibly difficult to build them profitably and at scale, and very few companies, hardly any honestly, have found a way to build a profitable business off of DC fast charging. Because Tesla was such a huge profitable electric vehicle business, they were able to kind of break even with superchargers because they brought in so much money from their energy business and their automotive sector that they were okay with just kind of breaking even on the superchargers, and they knew how to cut costs and how to keep it simple, how to keep the cables short, how to have a standardized port location, how to not have too many displays or too many big displays and just make everything in-house, vertically integrated, and even that struggled to be very profitable. So there were a lot of major automakers that were jumping on this NACS train with the belief that Tesla was going to continue accelerating their deployment of chargers. This was something Tesla not that long ago was bragging about, like, we're deploying more and more every day, and that absolutely helped a bunch of people make the transition to electric vehicles. It made them feel more confident that the ownership experience is only going to get better because there's going to be more and more chargers growing, and they're going to build out the capacity not just for their own vehicles, but also for others out there with these new V4 dispensers. And there was a lot of promised hope with the Cybertruck as well, which is this higher voltage vehicle that gets higher speeds with third-party charge providers than Tesla's own providers, because Tesla hadn't rolled out the V4 cabinets on the back end. They had only rolled out the V4 dispensers. So dismantling the whole charging team, or claiming that, oh, AMPM is going to buy up the chargers from Tesla and deploy them themselves, no, I don't necessarily see that as a good sign, because the transition to EVs we all thought was going to involve an exponential increase in the take rate. You know, we were going to see more and more vehicles being delivered every year, and seeing Elon straight up say, no, we're just slowing down the growth. And even that, I feel like, is mostly damage control, because pretty much everybody in charge of contacting city providers, contacting utility companies to build in infrastructure to support these chargers now have lost all of their contacts. So I don't even know who's going to be growing the charging network from this point on. You know, it's just a very discouraging thing to see people that were once proudly supporting Tesla's mission and helping accelerate this transition now straight up post Tesla charging is no more. I have a hard time seeing how people look at this as a silver lining or a good thing, or, well, you know, times are tough, we gotta cut costs. I can understand that to a certain extent. You know, maybe the Tesla advertising team was not bringing in much revenue, so it's sad, but yeah, we gotta let those people go. Or maybe I have too many salespeople or too many executives that are doing jobs that aren't really helping much. But in my opinion, removing the Tesla charging team from Tesla would be like Apple scrapping their whole Apple Silicon team, you know? Like, that's their core, that's their bread and butter, that's what kind of gives them their competitive advantage over everybody else in the industry. So to dismantle something as crucial and fire everybody involved with such a huge portion of not just the Tesla business, but also the EV industry as a whole, this is really hard to look positively on. And I was so excited that in the US we were reaching a point where all these automakers were agreeing on this NACS standard, and now to kind of lose all of their contacts and communication that was going to be somewhat required for this transition to continue, and losing a bunch of trust now in a lot of other automotive brands that were already skeptical on pursuing more electric vehicles anyway, it really just discourages me. It's honestly quite depressing, and this was honestly kind of my worst fear that I was probably not acknowledging enough of in my previous videos. Elon didn't say he was betting the whole company on autonomy, but I think this is actually kind of the worst case scenario. If Elon does genuinely believe robotaxis are around the corner and Tesla needs to just focus more on being an AI and robotics company, and you shouldn't look at Tesla as a car company, like, okay, I can have my issues with that vision, but in the past I was kind of accepting of it because I was like, well, you know, Elon's gonna be Elon and attempt these crazy things, and if it happens, good on him, that'll be exciting. But if it doesn't happen, no worries, because Tesla still has a great vehicle lineup and they have this great charging network. If all else fails, they're still going to be a very profitable, very successful energy company that can manage the charging network. And I recall very notable people in the community like Sandy Monroe and Corey Strubin bragging about how Tesla basically owns the gas stations now for this EV transition. And to see so many people just suddenly go, never mind, it's not that important, I'm like, really? And simultaneously, again, worst case scenario of believing that autonomy or AI and robotics has got to be the main focus is that you start cutting away what made the company successful and what brings in the company's revenue in the first place. We were already seeing weakening EV demand, and I personally think this is not going to help it at all, because not everybody's going to go on Twitter and see exactly what Elon's saying. A lot of people are just going to read the headlines, these are potential customers out there, and see that Tesla is not too committed to this charging network, or we find out that a lot of automakers are going to hold on to CCS1 longer than we initially thought because they lost all of their contacts and they lost all collaboration with Tesla, which they were kind of dependent on, especially very popular EV makers like Hyundai and Kia, which were already building on a higher voltage architecture. That was part of the reason they were struggling to get on the NACS train, was because they weren't sure what Tesla's plans were for long-term deployment of high voltage stations. And a lot of people were saying, oh no, it'll be okay because Tesla's going to roll out higher voltage architecture architectures with longer cables, and now it's like, no, we're actually just going to focus on the chargers that are already out there, which are not really well optimized for all of the coming electric vehicles out there with different charge port locations and higher voltage architectures, including Tesla's own vehicle like the Cybertruck, which is still having to split the pack voltage every time it supercharges. And I used to think, well, that's a growing pain problem. In the future, we're going to have V4 superchargers that are all high voltage and they will all charge the Cybertruck much faster. Now, I'm not so sure because Elon wants this to be a robotaxi company and a robotics company, and that may involve him kind of severely limiting the growth of EV sales because he's thinking, well, we don't need to sell cars. All that matters is the company is bringing in robotaxi revenue, which, again, I think is not necessarily a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I think it's more of a very long, complex trail of picking up coins here and there by getting regulatory approval at a handful of cities, finding out that vandalism and upkeep and maintenance of these robotaxis is probably a lot more complex and intricate than they initially thought, and it won't be this great passive income stream, even if it does roll out in some limited fashion, that Elon thinks it will be. And I, in the past, have said that Tesla would have to make some very stupid decisions to be at risk of failing or losing market share or not achieving the growth that they've set out, and honestly, a lot of investors have justified their valuation of by saying, well, they're a growth company. If they suddenly start pivoting like this and decide that, oh, the charging infrastructure is not that important, or the next step is selling cars isn't that important because we're an autonomy company, that could end up being one of the greatest big faults or huge mistakes the company makes that costs it greatly, causes a bunch of distrust in the industry when it comes to electric vehicle adoption and charging infrastructure. Also, I think it could cause a huge amount of distrust from all of their applicants. How many people are going to want to work at Tesla when they see how hardworking, really talented employees and engineers that are doing amazing things that I thought was Tesla's greatest advantage. I've said that on this channel for many, many years. Being able to just pull in, plug in, and it starts charging. Everybody who made that possible just gets laid off because Elon decides, you're not important anymore. And without much notice, sounds like everybody who's leaving is pretty upset and frustrated by the lack of communication, the lack of transparency, and the lack of game plan. And that might affect the kind of talent that Tesla attracts. If you're the kind of person that wants to support Tesla's mission or any company's mission, but then you just get thrown to the side after you help out with a couple of projects, then yeah, I could see why a lot of people would say, yeah, I'll look for employment elsewhere where maybe I'm appreciated a bit more. I really hope Tesla kind of walks back on this decision. Elon can kind of pick up maybe on some of this backlash and realize, no, there should be a backup plan. I know he's the risk taker. I know he's this ultimate entrepreneur and he's done amazing things in the past, but I just want to remind people that just because someone can achieve amazing things that before were thought impossible, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will absolutely do everything and anything they put their mind to. You can still fail. You can still not achieve things that you think are achievable, even if you've achieved amazing things in the past. Even though SpaceX is incredible, Starlink is wonderful, connecting the world, and the reusable rockets with the Falcon 9, and I cannot wait to watch the Starship launch again. Really excited for all that stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that anything else you attempt is also going to be achieved. Like, you can still make faults, you can still make bad decisions, you can still make mistakes, and achieve amazing things, right? And that's why when Tesla is such a big company that employs, over 100,000 people, at least it used to, I hope Elon's love for humanity, to want to see it prevail with more sustainable energy and with making life multiplanetary, I hope he doesn't forget what it actually means to be human. We still have to treat each other with respect. We still have to build a good work environment for people where they feel comfortable and safe and passionate to come to work and not worry, oh, am I going to be fired today because I'm not helping enough with autonomy development or something because I'm in the charging team. No, the Tesla charging team, in my opinion, was not anywhere close to completing the job. It wasn't like superchargers have figured everything out that they need to, but maybe Elon's thinking, well, with robotaxis replacing 5 cars each, we don't need that many chargers anymore because no one's going to own cars in the future, right? But I just personally don't see that future necessarily unfolding the way he does. I think robotaxis are going to continue to work in limited capacity, geofences with weather restrictions and lots of regulatory approval and scrutiny when it comes to lawsuits or any mistakes they possibly make. It's going to be a lot more scrutinized than an individual driver making a mistake. And we just need these chargers at the end of the day. Like, we needed the growth, we needed more expansion in capacity, and above all, we needed a unified front on the EV transition. And that was something I was so excited and pumped up for when it came to everybody jumping on the Nax train, that I just now see all of this work and all of this unity kind of falling apart and crumbling, which is quite sad and depressing, honestly. What do you guys think? Am I overreacting? Am I being way too pessimistic? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you once again to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have the best day you can.